Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles Tavance, and welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show in store for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. Also, we got a pretty cool poll that we're running in the survey that we're running at that we have pinned in the comments below. It only take about 2 to 4 minutes to fill it out. You have an opportunity to win some pretty cool Amazon gift cards, so make sure you guys check that out. Anyway, let me get into this topic here. This was a topic that came across my desk a few days ago, but I didn't really touch on it. But then I saw that this situation occurred more than once, and I was like, this is interesting. What am I referring to? There was a video that was kind of circulating around the internet that was centered on an exchange that former general manager of the Golden State Warriors, Bob Myers, and Stephen A. Smith had during, I think, the pregame show or the halftime show of the NBA Finals. And they were discussing, like, what we always do in sports, storylines. But then Bob Myers said something quite interesting that I hadn't heard anyone mention before, really in big media. I've heard people mention it in an independent space. But essentially, what he said was, the comments that you put out there contribute to the divide that exists in some NBA locker rooms. Like, you're tearing teams apart. And Stephen A. Smith immediately pushed back on him on live air, like, no, that's not me. That's not me. That's social media. So what we want to do is want to play the original pushback that Bob Myers had on Stephen A. Smith on live TV. And then we're going to come back and continue on. Take a listen to that there.
And the Celtics are on top, right? And anytime you're on top, people used to come at Curry and Durant, and they'd come at you in the media. They'd come at you on the street. And the point is, and Josh knows this, what matters is your locker room, the fabric of that locker room and what they can withstand. And that's why, not because that Knicks fabric, you guys had that this year. But it is hard to find, man. We tear teams apart more than we ever have. Maybe on purpose, maybe not. Maybe that guy down there, maybe.
Not me.
I don't know. Maybe.
Not
you
me.
might.
That's social media.
That's somebody else. I thought it was you for a second there. But we do this. We attack teams, and especially when you're supposedly the best team. That's the team we come out the hardest, and that's what kids do.
Hey.
He's trying to make it. Break it up.
Hey. Wasn't me. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy.
You heard the exchange. Fantastic. Now, what happened? Apparently, Paul George has been, amongst the analysts for the NBA Finals. I was surprised to see him there, but anyway, he was there. And there was a particular point where Stephen A. Smith was talking about various stars, and then he tried to openly disrespect Kawhi Leonard in front of Paul George, who's his teammate, by basically saying Paul George wishes he could have a healthy star around him. And then Bob Myers got annoyed with Stephen A. Smith. Maybe we can put up a still of it, because towards the very end, he kind of like shakes his head and looks the other way like, man, what's wrong with this guy? And he goes, this is the thing I'm talking about. And even Paul George says, don't do that. Don't do that. So what we want to do now is want to play this clip for you. It's only about 20 seconds or so. I want you guys to listen to it carefully. We may put up a still for you guys to see it, because we can't show you the clip because we don't own the rights to it. And then we'll come back and really get into this. Take a listen to this there.
To his stuff.
Nobody on the planet knows what it's like to play without a starter and Paul George. I'll leave it at that.
Don't do that.
Nobody knows.
Don't do that.
This is what he does.
Don't do that.
This is what nobody knows.
You know what? Much more of this coming up on NBA Countdown. Kevin Nagandi, we need a break. Please take it away.
So you heard what Bob Myers had to say. Let me tell you what I thought was interesting about his comments. Prior to Bob Myers pointing that out, I had never thought about it, but it gave me an insight into some of the things and some of the conversations that are had within organizations based off of the things that are being said in the public, being said on TV and big media and all of that. And he's essentially saying, look, these comments that you continuously make are meant to divide people. One of the big questions, and some people even accuse us of it, is, hey, who's the better player between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? People are like, don't do this. And then even Jason Tatum had to put out the comment saying, look, I understand that people are trying to divide us. I think he was referring to some comments that what's his name, that Jason Kidd made, the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, right? And then even Drew Holiday was like, he's been playing. So there's this thing that exists within locker rooms, and I think Bob Myers got to know. Now, what surprised me was that he would take that shot at Kawhi as if in front of Paul George, as if to say, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean to not have your star around you. As if expecting Paul George to say, yeah, man, I really understand. If Paul George, for example, had agreed with Stephen A. Smith in any capacity, it would have been damaging for the relationship between Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, because Paul George should always be loyal to his teammate, not to a media personality, because these are your brothers. These are the guys that you go into the foxhole with. These are the guys that you're playing with on a daily basis. These are the guys that you're competing with. But nevertheless, it didn't stop him from doing that. So when Bob Myers said you're doing this to, what you're doing promotes negativity, in that particular instance, I understood what he meant. So the question now becomes, is Stephen A. Smith the only one that does this? Is he really? I don't think he is, if I'm being totally honest with you. I don't think he is. I think that all of us in sports media have dissected relationships that exist between certain players on certain teams and questioned certain dynamics that existed between two of them. I give you guys a perfect example of this. You look at the situation with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Many a times we've asked the question, is LeBron holding back AD? Is AD letting down LeBron James? You hear these things in the media. You hear these things discussed, right? And once these conversations are being put out there, and if it gets into the locker room, it could become a talking point, or it could not. That's why teams try their best to shield their players from all of this outside noise. But in this day and age, it's impossible. So do we all do it? I think we all do it to a certain extent. I don't think we would do it in a case where, for example, if you had LeBron James and you were sitting down with LeBron James and you asked him, like, man, you know the importance of having a healthy co-star. And he's like, you must know what that feels like, because Anthony Davis has had injury issues in the past. If you ask LeBron that on live air and LeBron concurred with you in any way, you're going to rupture that relationship. So I thought it was a very, very interesting observation. I think it's something that is commonplace in sports media. I think that is something that Bob Myers is most likely going to have to get used to, because, you know, sports is all about the storylines, right? It's all about the storylines. We can discuss it, but I think it's something entirely different to then pose that question to a teammate of the person you're talking about on live TV. That's a pretty bold thing. So these are my thoughts on it. What I want to know from you guys, number one, what do you think about Stephen A. Smith comments to Paul George? Number two, what do you think about what Bob Myers said, and whose side are you on all of this? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts in the comment section, and we catch you guys on the next show. Peace.